دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافع خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار آزمون به توی دروازه سردار آزمون گل به نام آزمون و برای ایران بزنه کریم ازاری گل توی دروازه کریم ازاری دروازه پرتغال بود علی دایی سام توپ توی دروازه اشتباه حرکت کوچان نجات فرصت برای کوچان نجات توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bezan. I'm joined by Arya and Pezhman, and my name's Sina. Firstly, I wanted to kick off this episode by saying and wishing you all a happy Nowruz, happy New Year to everyone. And I think to start off by is trying to challenge you two, Arya and Pezhman, trying to name. We have a little half-seen question. Name 7 players, Iranian players, starting off with the letter S or Sin. I can't think of that many.
Okay.
I'm struggling.
Last name or first name? I'm thinking of Samere. I would just do the S in English because.
Sadar Azmoun, that counts.
Masud Shojai as in S, does it count? Or is it a?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let you have a second name as well, so that makes it easier.
Saeed Ezatolahi.
Sayed Manesh, that counts, right?
So how many do we have now? Like 4, 5?
Like 5, yeah.
Siamak Mahdi, world class.
Hey, your favorite.
Well, anyone listening, if you're listening to us on YouTube, and please ensure that you're subscribed while you're there. Comment down below if you think of anyone else that we've missed, because I'm sure there's loads, but I can't think of any. I'm really struggling.
Sorsha Makani, Sasan Ansari.
Who else? Shoja Khalilzadeh.
Did you mention Siamak?
Shoja'i, right? That counts. Yes.
Jafar Salmani in the squad as well for this camp. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, yeah. Happy Nowruz again to everyone.
Happy Nowruz, everyone.
And to Arya and Pezhman as well. Cool. All right. So I want to talk to you guys both and everyone listening about the 24-man squad list that's been called up by Skočić, announced on Saturday. So this is for the Iran-Syria game on March 30th in Tehran at 5:30 p.m. local time. So just, I guess, give a bit of background. Some players are missing due to COVID, obviously. So Abedzadeh, Javanbakhsh, Saman Ghodus, Rezai, they can't make it. And of course, like recently, in I think the last hour or so, you said, Arya, Golizadeh can't play either. So it's unfortunate, but I mean, there's nothing really we can do about that. So I mean, there's no point really kind of covering that. But then obviously we've got the injured players as well. There's Puraganji and Muharrami. They're both injured. But what I really want to talk to you guys both about is, I think, probably the most surprising omission from the squad. And like we'll talk about the rest of the squad in a bit, but probably the most surprising omission is Saeed Ezatolahi. So Arya, what do you kind of make of that? Because he's been playing fairly consistently in Denmark.
Yeah, so Saeed, for me, I think the situation really comes down to a couple of things. First and foremost, Saeed is a player who, look, if you told me back in October he's not in the squad, I would have been completely okay with it, because at the end of the day, he hadn't been playing much club football for a long time, and he wasn't active on the pitch, so I would have been completely okay with it. But the problem I have, it's really annoying me, is that I understand you drop him once and you want to make a statement, but you don't drop him after he's played a full season. That just makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense, because at the end of the day, he's one of the best players the national team has, whether you like it or not. You know, Skočić should know that himself. He used to coach him at Malavon. You know, he's one of his youth players from Iran. It's not the right statement to make, to say that if you're trying to tell me, and Pezhman, I'd love to hear your argument against it if you have one. If you're trying to tell me Ahmad Nourallahi, Ali Kanemi, and Ehsan Haisafi are all better than Saeed Ezatolahi, then listen, if any of them can make it in Europe, then come back to me and tell me. Because I don't think Ali Kanemi made it in Europe. He didn't have a career in Croatia. Ahmad Nourallahi never played outside of Iran. Haisafi only played a couple of seasons in Greece and then went back to Iran, and now he's doing pretty much nothing. And yes, he's the captain, but it doesn't mean he should be getting called up 100%. And then you've got Omid Nur Afghan as well. And you're trying to tell me this guy who's a Charleroi reject is now better than Ezatolahi as well. Come on, man. This is one of the worst omissions I've seen in a while from a national team head coach. And I think, if you look at the narrative outside of, whether or not he's better or not, from what I've heard, there's obviously been problems with himself, Skočić, and agents behind the scenes who maybe have been able to influence the decision that for him not to be selected. I'm not going to go into detail about it because obviously it's very, very private, but of course it's something that is obviously in there and it's in discussion, and it's a shame that a player like that, who we interviewed recently and we know how much of a great player he is, isn't being called up for random bureaucratic issues or whatever it may be. And I think it's a real shambolic decision.
Yeah, some very strong words. Pezhman, I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, sorry. To be honest, I don't have anything to say against Arya. I agree with him. And this is kind of like the Iran that we had for some while that nobody of us misses. If the player selection is based on, stuff that happens outside the field, private issues, that's something that Iran always have problems with, at least at club level. Now, if this is the case, even on national team level at this stage, it's kind of concerning, to be honest, because we can't, let this kind of influences or whatever it might be affect the best for the national team. And at this moment, I believe the best for national team would be to have Said in the squad because he's that good to be in the squad. So I hope that this will be figured out for the World Cup qualifiers. I really do. And I also do believe that Denmark have been a good step for Said, getting regular play time in a decent league, in a okay club in Europe. And
with good facilities as well, no?
Yeah, I mean, Denmark and Sweden are quite similar, but the thing with Denmark is that they have much better, since it's more south of Europe compared to Sweden, you don't have the issue with the real cold and the snow that you can have in Sweden. And therefore, in Sweden, we have a lot of plastic pitch, turf, but you don't have that in Denmark in the same way. And that's, I think, is a key issue to keep growing. So I hope, for Said's sake and Team Melli's sake, that this is just like something that happened for a friendly against Syria and at the World Cup qualifiers.
Sorry, Sina, just before you come on, just obviously just to give more narrative. Listen, the last goal we scored, he assisted it for Goalkeepers against Bosnia. Like, it's not like he was playing badly for Iran, first and foremost. He was still playing good. And then second, I've not mentioned Omid Ebrahimi. I think everyone would notice that as well. Omid Ebrahimi, for me, should have been in the squads anyway. I'm glad he's recalled. But Omid Ebrahimi is a very high-level midfielder for me anyway. So I'm happy he's in the squad. But Said is, in my opinion, the best defensive midfielder we have.
I mean, I've been very vocal about this. I think he is probably our future captain. Like, I think he's a leader, natural leader, and I really don't see why he can't be the national team captain in the future. But I think overall, this sets a pretty dangerous precedent because when you're moving from the Carlos Queiroz era where European, players that play in Europe are preferred over the ones that play in the domestic division, and also like consistently playing in Europe, like that's a very rare thing that our players have worked very hard to achieve. When those players are not being preferred over the ones that play domestic football, it seems like a step backward. I really don't understand it. I can't really get my head around that.
Here's the thing. The Qatari players are going to finish their contracts very soon, so they won't be playing matches when the next games come around. But Said will be. So you're trying to tell me that Omid Ebrahimi and Ali Kanemi are going to be more physically in shape by June than Said, and you're going to call them up now over Said because you think that they're better now. You're not looking into the problem is he's looking too short term, Skočić, too short term as a manager. You're not a club coach anymore. You're a national team head coach. You've got to be a long term looker, and you've got to say, look, in the long term, look at Queiroz. He used to call up Ezatolahi when he wasn't even playing for Rostov. Or the same with Dejarga. He was still calling because he trusted these players and he built a system around these players. This is not the way a national team head coach works, as to say, oh, I'm going to just call up a different guy this time.
I'd understand it to a degree if he was kind of experimenting with new players that haven't had a call up before. This is a friendly at the end of the day. Like, let's not forget that. However, he's called up people who, I mean, they're not strangers to the national team, you know. Like, a lot of them, you know, Haj Safi, Ibrahim, they are heavily experienced players. Like, I don't really get why he doesn't fit into this. Whereas if it was a, you know, new midfield, I'd kind of understand it.
The narrative of having, let's say, oh yeah, it's just a Syria friendly, who cares? But I care. Like, I want to see the best national team players get called up. I don't care who we're playing against. It's not a club. You don't just play players because you think they're not good enough. You need to call up the best players. I think it's a carry on, man. I'm really not happy with that lack of a selection. Well, let's move on to our next topic.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so before we move on, the other omissions were Imani and Shiri. I don't know if we'll talk that much about that. Also, the assistant coach will also miss the game because he's in Madeira, so he can't fly either. But yeah, so let's talk about the squad as a whole. Let's move on from Ezatolahi. So firstly, let's focus on goalkeepers. So no real surprises here, apart from obviously the omission of Ahmedzadeh. I'm quite like, if Ahmedzadeh was able to travel, I would very much be surprised if he didn't start over Alireza Behramvand. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pezhman?
Yeah, I said it many times. For me, I see him as the number one goalkeeper in Iran. And yeah, I do believe that he would be getting some playing time in the friendly and showing his skills. Behramvand, I'm not going to go into that too much, but and I'm sad for his sake that he's got a bad spell at his first season in Antwerp in a good club, in a decent league, and he has struggled a lot and lost his first spot again. Ahmedzadeh plays regularly in Portugal. I mean, that should be enough, to be honest. I don't see, you don't have to have that many reasons for not starting a goalkeeper. For me, if a goalkeeper doesn't start, that's how Behramvand got his spot, because Hariri wasn't playing enough, and you know he was always injured or had issues with clubs or whatever. So that's how Behramvand got his spot. And now he seems to be doing the same thing. The same thing seems to be happening to him, and Ahmedzadeh taking that spot. So it will be interesting to follow and see who will actually start in the future.
Yeah. Arya, do you think he'll start? This is a friendly at the end of the day. He might experiment with a new goalkeeper.
I mean, Skočić loves an experiment. You know, he played Niozmand in his first game. He had Ahmedzadeh in his second game. He might play Mazahiri this time. So you never know. Ultimately, I think Behramvand is the best out of the three, no doubt about it. But he isn't in form. You know, he's not playing. He's the third choice technically now. You know, because Devov was playing first choice for him, and then Boutez has been a first choice anyway. So like technically his third choice. So I don't know what's going on with him. But Payam Niozmand's a good goalkeeper. I'm happy he's back in the squad. He's been in the squad anyway. And Mazahiri is a reliable goalkeeper, but he's a fourth choice for me. I think Ahmedzadeh would be first choice.
Yeah, I think we'll leave it for goalkeepers because I think Behramvand. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I think he'll probably start in the end, if I'm honest. But so moving on to defenders. Yeah, I think he will. So moving on to defenders. So no real surprises here for me. So we got Hosseini, Kanani, Khalidzadeh, Golami as centre backs, and then Neymati and Tighdari, and then Milad Mohammadi and Jalili. So no real surprises for me. I don't know. What do you think of it, Pezhman?
It will be fun to see some of the new players getting some minutes in the national team. That's it. To be honest, I don't know Mr. Tighdari, Mr. Tiktuk, and how he plays, but let's hope that these players get some international experience.
I have much more of a strong opinion on this than Pezhman does. I'm happy with Majid, Kanani, and Khalidzadeh. Right, those three are natural. You know, centre backs that we need in the squad, regardless of if they're playing or not. Obviously, Prali Ganji is not available. He's brought in Arif Golami. Arif Golami hasn't started a game for Istiqlal in a long time. So if you're looking at it merit-wise, should he be in the squad? No, he shouldn't. Absolutely not. You ask any Istiqlal fan as well, they'll tell you that he shouldn't be in the squad, and he shouldn't be. But he is, and he's a talented young player, so I'm happy for him, but he shouldn't be in the squad. Simple as that. The right backs, you got Siomakne Mati and Tikdari. Are you trying to tell me that Siomakne Mati and Mehdi Tikdari are the second choice, third choice after Moharami? Are you really trying to tell me those two are after him? Like, come on, man. Like, this is not the way to work for a national team, man. You don't just bring in randomers to play in a position that's vital. You know, I know Moharami is injured. I know he doesn't like Reza. Yeah, I know he doesn't like Ghaffari. But you have like Daniel Esmaili Farouk who's doing fantastic for Sepahn. You've got Saleh Ardani who's doing brilliantly under Nekunam at Fulad. You've got Ahmad Mousavi who's doing really well at Istiqlal. You know, these guys are doing good, and you're bringing in guys who are not even a right back. Nemati wasn't even a right back until like last year. So for me, it's a real surprise. Tikdari, I think personally, he's been brought in to fill the void of having no Traktor player, because Hoysafi left recently. He went to Sepahn. And I think Vahid and Skočić have sat down and said, you know what, we need a Traktor player, because there's going to be a big uproar after we put the squad out if there's no Traktor player. And they put in Tikdari because there's a spot available. That's my opinion. That's exactly what they've done, in my opinion, because there's no reason to not bring up a player like Esmaili Farouk, who's been fantastic this season. And then you've got Abolfaz Jalali who's been called up, when you've already got players like Noor Afghan and Hoysafi and Milad Mohammadi and Jafar Salmani who can also play left back. So why have you got 5 left backs in the squad? Why? You don't need 5 left backs. You've got 24 players called up and you've called up 5 left backs. Are you serious, man?
Like, well, listen, this is maybe just the way Skočić see them. Remember that what's his name? Kairosh did the same thing. With a lot of the players, they changed position in the national team, and later they changed in the club as well. So
I agree with you.
Don't take that too hard.
But let me just give you the numericals then. So naturally he'll want to have 4 centre midfielders, right? So he's already got Karimi, Nurullahi, Hoysafi, and Ibrahimi. Those are the 4. Noor Afghan would be the 5th one. Why would he need 5? You know, then Noor Afghan has been playing left back all season for Sepahn, all season, and then you've got, so that's someone who's naturally a left back. And then you've got Abolfaz Jalali is uncapped. Why does he need to be in there? You could have brought in someone like Mohebi or somebody like Torabi or someone who's more experienced that you can bring in when Zadeh isn't available.
But there will always be discussions about who should play and who shouldn't be called up and didn't. So let's make that analyze after the Syria game. You know, we're not the coaches. We still have to respect the coaches' decision, even if we don't agree with them. And later, let's see if the decisions were right. And it's a friendly against Syria, to be honest.
I'm happy for Jalali. I think he's a good young player. I've seen him play at U20, U17 level, and I'm happy for him. But let's just see how he gets on.
I think we have very different points of view about what we want to see out of this game. I think me and Pezhman we're very open to experimentation, whereas Arya, I feel like you just want to get the best team out there. Just to send sort of a message.
We have a month, 2 months to prepare for the 4 biggest games that Iran's ever had in the last 8 years. Come on, we need to get the best players on the pitch, man. It's not worth having Jalali getting experimented. Why? It's just the question of why. I don't understand.
Well, there's still going to be some holes in the team. Even if you play the regular starters, there's still going to be some holes that he needs to fill with players. And I feel like this game is probably the experimentation to do that. And I completely get you. There is a huge game coming up with the qualifiers that we'll talk about in a bit. But I don't know, you can't just keep relying on the same group of players, because what if they get injured? What if they get injured in the second minute or something? You have to bring in players, and if you haven't experimented, you can't do that. All right, well, we've talked about it a bit already, but so let's cover the midfielders a little bit more. So yeah, we talked about who's been called up. So Hoysafi, Karimi, Nurullahi, Ibrahimi, and Noor Afghan fielders, and then we'll talk about the wingers in a second. But I don't know. We've basically covered everything really, Arya. What do you really think? Is there anything we've kind of omitted there, apart from, the Ezatolahi Omission?
No, look, I mean, the midfielders are good. They're all very good midfielders. And I'm happy that they've all been selected. I'm happy Omid Ibrahimi is back. As I said before, he's a very, very good, experienced player. But is he a long-term option? That's a question you have to ask. Is he long term? I don't think he is. I don't think a 35-year-old can make it to the World Cup and play. So, I don't know. I don't see Omid Ibrahim as a long-term option. And I don't think Hoy Safi is the guy who should be captain, but he is. Yeah, it is what it is.
So, the attacking midfielders, obviously, Golizadeh can't play because of COVID. So, I guess we'll hear about a replacement fairly soon. I'm not quite sure. But, we got Ghaidi and Vaid Amiri and then Salmani. So, what do you make of that, Arya?
Yeah, I'm so happy to see Jafar Salmani in the squad. I'm so happy for him because he's a wonderful kid, a wonderful player. I followed his career at Southampton Aft and U23s for Iran. He's a brilliant player, and I'm really happy to see him in the squad. I'm happy to have Vahid Amiri there. I think he brings a lot of experience and energy, as we know. Mehdi Ghaidi, the superstar in Iran, and it's a shame Ali Ghaidi obviously can't make it. But yeah, they're good players. Obviously, it's a shame we couldn't see someone go Dus and Javanbakhsh, but this is the best we have.
What do you make of it, Pezhman?
I agree with Arya, and I don't want to sound like a broken record and say like we'll see, it's a friendly game and stuff like that. But that's what what I need to say anyway, because we know that we have a really strong offensive players, so whoever plays, like Mohebi or Salmani, whatever, they won't maybe even be on the bench in the World Cup qualifiers when we have players like Taremi and Azmoun and also Ansari Fard doing great. Maybe Ali Golizadeh will return. Maybe Kaveh Rezai won't even get into the squad. That's the depth of the national team we have at the front. As you said, Saman Qudus as well. So it's great opportunity for these players to get some minutes.
Who's replacing Golizadeh for you, Pezhman?
Listen, I've been a fan of Torabi, but this guy, what can I say? The potential that he showed when he was at his peak was phenomenal. Was like, this guy needs to move to Europe and become a professional-minded and a professional player, taking it to the next level. And then, not doing that and moving to the Arab leagues ruins his star quality. But let's not forget that Taremi went to Rio Ave from Al Qarafa when he was like 27 or something like that. And we thought maybe the same about Taremi as well. Like, who cares how good you are in Qatar? But I hope he can prove me wrong. I really, really hope so, because I think he's a fun player to watch, unorthodox and can make that little extra that we need sometimes in the build-ups.
He's back to Persepolis now, isn't he?
Yeah. He 1-2 months ago, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's just a terrible career move for him, man. It's hilarious because, like as you said, he's such a talented player, but
he's got the quality.
He's never moved to Europe. I don't understand it. But for me, it would be Mohamed Mohebi. I think he's been the standout player in the league. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
It's a big loss. I really enjoy watching Golizadeh for sure. 100%. Yeah, I really enjoy watching him. So, anyways, moving on to strikers. So, no big surprises here. Obviously, Reza can't play, but you got the usual suspects. So you got Sadar Azmoun after his red card in Champions League. Mehdi Taremi's in. Sayed Manesh, who I absolutely love, is in, and Karim Ansari Farad makes a return, which is nice to see. Pezhman, what do you make of that strike force?
I'm really eager to see what they can do. I hope they smash Syria, like 5-6 goals. I still can't forgive them for their unfair way of playing in the draw. Was it in Malaysia or Indonesia or somewhere? They don't know fair play.
Malaysia.
Yeah, and a lot of people back then said to me like, "Oh, how can you say this? Like Syria, they're like in such a tragic war and stuff like that." And they are, and it's a really shame. But those 11 players weren't, fighting for or against Assad. They were just being a shitty, unclassy team. So, I hope whoever scores, they celebrate a lot. And I'm happy to see Ansari Fard. I think he knows how to score goals, and he's like that dark horse that comes every now and then and makes a difference. And let's not forget, he also scored a penalty against Portugal. So I hope he starts and scores.
He's been kind of out of favour, though, Kariman so far. I don't know, like I still enjoy watching him. I think he's a very good player. Like, he brings a lot of good experience and all of that stuff. But yeah, he's been a bit out of favour, and I think Kvaratskhelia being out really favours him, his position. I don't know. What do you make of the strike force, Arya?
Yeah, I agree with what Pezhman said. I think Ansari Farid's a very good number 9. Like, when he wants to be, he'll be able to get there and score goals. He'll impact the game. But there's a question mark with Ansari Farid at the moment, in my opinion, anyway. Like, he's nearly 31 years old. It's the same situation with Omid Ebrahimi. Is he going to be at the next World Cup? I don't think he will. And there was this, obviously, Shahab Zahidi was upset on Instagram. He posted a story, which in my opinion he shouldn't have done, but he did anyway. And he posted a story like being upset with the not being called up. There's rumors of him playing for Ukraine now, but I don't know. Like, Ansari Farid, I like him. I think he's good. I think he's good to have in the squad. I think he's a good head in there. Obviously, it's Osman and Taremi and Syed Manesh. Syed Manesh is a wonderful talent, generational talent that we need to nurture. Unlike the way Ezatolahi's being dealt with just at the moment. I hope he's nurtured properly and called up to camps when he deserves it. But no, like, I think he's very, very, very good. I hope he gets a chance to score a goal. Last time he played Syria was 5-0, and Aligar Saad scored his first goal on his debut. And yeah, but the thing that I want to quickly just discuss, I think I've heard it on a few pages here and there on social media as well. Some Iranian football fans have been speaking about the possibility of calling up Sepahan striker Sadrzadeh, who has been top goal scorer of the league for a little while now. He's 16 goals this season so far in the Persian Gulf Pro League, and people are saying he should be called up. I don't understand that. Why should he be called up? So you're telling me, like, obviously Moralnou was one of the top goal scorers last season. He went to Europe, he failed, and now he's not called up. So why is he not called up? Why? Because people don't understand. The Persian Gulf Pro League isn't the same as playing in Europe. Sadrzadeh was playing in Turkey. He didn't do anything in Turkey, did he? If you take him to AEK, where Ansari Farid is, do you think he'll score 16 goals more than Ansari Farid? I don't think so. I don't think he'll score more goals than Ansari Farid in the Greek league. So for me, people who are making these accusations, Skočić didn't call up Sadrzadeh. Come on, give me a break.
I'm gonna say the same thing. Look, Arya, you're not the coach. Get over it. You're not the one picking the players. We can do an entire pod about Arya's 11 or squad and Skočić's squad. To be honest, for me, it's not interesting. And I'm saying it as a football fan. I have a lot of opinions of who should play and who should be in the squad, but since I can't make that decision, I don't give it any effort, and I don't let it take my time. That's what I'm saying. And you can be angry and mad that some players aren't in the squad. I agree with you, and we can just address that shortly. But that's it. That's exactly nothing we can do about it. So for me, I would love to hear your analysis after the game, and we will do a pod about that as well. And then we can see, which player did what and how that was good or bad. But, player X not playing because he's in that league and that league.
No, but I do want to just make sure that you understood what I was saying. Sadrzadeh should not be called up, not he should be called up, and he wasn't called up. So I'm happy Ansari Farid is in the squad, just to make sure that you understood what I was saying.
Yeah, I know. I've seen the squad. I know who's in it.
Well, I mean, that's why we're here on the podcast to talk about this stuff. I mean, at the end of the day. But I think a question I want to pose to you guys is, with the variety of players, I mean, Arya kind of alluded to the abundance of left backs. How do you think the lineup will be? Like, what's the formation he'll use? What are the tactics he's going to use for this game? Pezhman, I'll start with you.
Who knows what the tactics will be? I have no idea. I mean, we've seen Skočić too little in the national team to know. I just hope that players can adapt to the system and a tactic that Skočić wants, and it's really important that there's enough belief and confidence and smartness in the players to be able to adjust to that. And that's something that Queiroz was able to do really good. Now, I don't know until when we should stop comparing Skočić to Queiroz as well, because that's a problem. He's not Queiroz. He's Skočić, and he chooses what he wants to do. So, how do we want to play? If we play against a weaker team such as Syria, we should be able to have a attacking formation, an attacking style of play, at the same time being aware of counterattacks. And Syria have a lot of good players, actually, that they shouldn't be underestimated. But Iran have to play to win, because Iran have to more or less win all of their games in the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. And therefore, I would love to see the best 11 out of that squad start.
Arya, what about you?
I think, look, this might be my Scottish side coming out a little bit, but I think we need to keep a clean sheet. You know, that's the most important thing for me. I think we need to keep a clean sheet. We cannot concede a goal in this game. If we concede a goal in this game, it'd be bad. We cannot concede a goal against Syria, especially since we beat them 5-0 under Wilmot. You know what I mean? So we have to keep a clean sheet. Then when it comes to goals, I want to see us score a lot of goals as well. I want to see, Osman and Taremi get on the goal sheet. And I want to see us impact the game. I don't know, tactically, like Pezhman said, I don't know what he'll do. It's his choice as a coach in the day. I don't really mind what he does anyway. I want us just to play well. If he plays a back three, I don't mind it. He played well against Bosnia for back three. Go for it. But just make sure you play the best players. Simple as that. The prediction, I think, with the lack of Zadeh in this team, I think it will be a little bit difficult for us to create chances. I think it will probably be something like 2-0.
Yeah, I'll go with 3-0. Pezhman, what about you?
6-0. Smash them.
I don't know. It could happen. Yeah, why not? So before we move on to fan questions, I also wanted to talk to you guys quickly about the upcoming qualifying games for the World Cup. So, and how Bahrain is hosting the qualifying matches. So, Arya, what do you kind of make of that? Like, do you have any more sort of information around why that's happening?
Look, me and Pezhman have different opinions on this, so I'll give my opinion. I don't know, and I'm going to say that from a sporting standpoint, regardless of what you want to say regarding the facilities that they have, from a sporting standpoint, and even if it's in front of no fans, even if it's COVID related, there should not be a situation where one team in the group gets to play more home matches than everyone else. For me, that's not fair. That's not fair, and we only get to play one home game, and that was against Cambodia. I don't understand. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. Regardless of the whole, again, how good the facilities in Bahrain are. And there's a letter that they sent to AFC from IFF, and there's obvious signs that Bahrain actually have probably more COVID cases per population than Iran, and they've already had to cut off their league numerous times in September, I think it was, and that shows that they have issues with COVID as well. So it's not like they don't have any issues. And I don't know, like, for me, it's an excuse by AFC not to put it in somewhere else just put it in a neutral country. Put it somewhere else. Don't have to put it in one of the countries that the teams in the group are in. It's not like it makes a difference. Do you know what I mean? You could just put it in Emirates or something. I think ultimately, Pezhman would really agree with me, Pezhman. We have to win anyway. Like, we should be winning this game anyway. You know what I mean? We should be winning. It's not an excuse. We should be winning this game anyway, right? But I think from a sporting standpoint, I think any team would say this. It shouldn't really happen.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Have Iran been screwed over by AFC for not getting the host opportunities in this group, while every other major team in the other groups have gotten, except for Australia, but they have their 14 days quarantine rule, so they were automatically ruled out. So yeah, have they been screwed over? Probably. Whose fault is it? I would say probably Iran itself. And that's why I'm on Team Bahrain on this one. Listen, Bahrain is a country with like 3 million population. They're no bigger than like Azadi Square in Tehran. It's a really small country in the Persian Gulf that, for their resources, they're doing quite good in the national level of football. And they're doing even better at AFC level. because they have really high officials in the Asian Football Confederation. And let's not fool ourselves and think that the AFC is not as, let's say, corrupt or amateur or badly handled like FIFA, for that matter. I mean, FIFA giving the World Cup to Qatar with everything shown that, you know, it was bribes, and they still are doing that. It just shows that this doesn't stop at Asian level. So let's say I'm a Bahraini, and what's the best thing for me that can happen with the World Cup qualifiers? Well, probably to play the rest of my games, the away and home games, in my own country, right? And Iran wanted to do the same. But we are so used to having such an incompetent and badly handled football federation that I was not a bit surprised that Iran didn't get it, for several reasons. First, I mean, I already mentioned that it's badly handled. And all the COVID issues, this is the next thing though. The COVID issues, I think we can all agree that the numbers that Iran is showing up about amount of people that actually died from COVID are far less than people that actually died in COVID in Iran. Because like the rest of the country, like the Football Federation, is being handled very, very poorly. So we have a great stadium in Azadi Stadium, and it's only great because it was built before the revolution, right? So it's over 40 years old. The other stadiums that were built after that, they are really, really poor and bad. And we just recently got some okay stadiums in Foulad, Khuzestan, and also in Mashhad and Sepahan. But to play all the games in Azadi Stadium wouldn't be a problem. Iran have done it before. They have hosted games for Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria, so we know that they can do it. But what I believe, and I don't know because I don't sit in the federation, I believe that Iran just simply thought that they would get it, and they didn't, take the necessary measurements and do what they needed to do to actually get the hostings. And this was a perfect opportunity for a country like Bahrain that know that this is their opportunity to maybe actually qualify for the next round of the qualifiers, to do what they need to do to get the hostings. And they did that, and good for them. It was a good move. It was a smart move. And now Iran have woken up and like, oh damn, we lost our 3 home games that were supposed to be played, and we're gonna play them in enemy turf because Bahrain is not. It's not only that it's just another team in the group. It's also one of Iran's biggest enemies, and always blaming each other for cheating and whatnot. And maybe they're right, but Iran have problems with Bahrain before. What's good in all of this is I do believe, and I really hope, that the games will be played without spectators, because I think that can be crucial for Iran, and it can be tough for Bahrain to handle. But if Iran can't win against Hong Kong and Cambodia and whatever in any turf, then they might as well, don't go to the World Cup.
One thing I wanted to bring up, I think it's quite important to say this, is obviously, as I was saying, I don't think that Iran should get it either. I think it should have been in a neutral ground. I think it should have been a different country completely of all the countries in the group. However, the thing I have an issue with Bahrain that I think is very important to bring up is if the 5 teams in the group, if all of a sudden all 5 teams have a COVID outbreak within Bahrain, as you said, it's a very small country, it's very difficult to contain that virus within that many group of people, staff and players included, in a small country. Very, very difficult to do. My problem is that I think it's very bad that they've selected Bahrain out of all the countries in the group, that if it can't be contained, then
Come on, man, it's not that small.
But listen, if it does happen, if they can't do that, if they can't contain it, the games will get cancelled again. And that's a big, big problem if that happens. If Iran's games get cancelled again,
I would say that there will be probably much bigger risk for players and staff getting COVID in Iran than in Bahrain.
I don't know, man. The containment of it, that's the problem. That's the issue I have, is how much can you contain it within Iran than you can within Bahrain. I don't know. That's my question.
No, I'd agree with Pezhman. There.
That's the argument IFF were making. That's not my argument. That's their argument, just to make sure.
But I mean, looking at the situation as a whole, like, it's obvious. I mean, talking about your point, Pezhman, that Iran has been screwed over here. Like, there is no kind of two ways about that. They have been screwed over to some extent. They could have played on neutral ground, as Arya said. They've played in the UAE. They've played in Turkey before. However, what I will say is that as kind of like long-term, Iranian football fans, we know how many challenges our national team and domestic teams, but especially national teams, have faced in comparison with other national teams. And every time these challenges have come about, our players and our staff have kind of arisen to that situation, and in a way, it's kind of galvanized the players to play in a more aggressive style. And so, I don't know, I think maybe you could take a lot of positives out of the situation where they'll also recognize that they have been screwed over to some extent. But maybe it might be a positive. It might actually give them more hunger and more desire to win.
It can, sure. That's a good motivation.
Yeah, so I think that's probably a good note to end on, to go on to fan questions. So, Arya, what fan questions have you got for us?
Actually, we just got one. From Instagram from Sina in Paris. She asked, given the lack of games because of the pandemic, obviously the preparation versus the other countries, how do you think the preparation for the national team will be affected from the pandemic?
What, as in how will they respond?
Yeah. How do you think that they can respond with the lack of preparation with the pandemic and all these things?
I kind of feel like a lot of other national teams have been in the same boat, though, haven't they? Like, with a lot of, if they're preparing more compared to our team, then it'll be a problem, right? But I don't think they've prepared like considerably more, though, right? So I don't think it'll be a big problem. I don't know. I might be wrong in that sense.
I think what she's trying to say, maybe ask Pezhman, this is probably good one for you, because she's trying to say, like, other countries have more friendlies than us. Like, there's a couple of countries in the group, for example, have 2 friendlies this camp, whereas we only have 1, and we've only had 1 in each of the other camps, where obviously the Mali game got cancelled and the Oman game got cancelled in the first camp. So we've only played 3 games for 4 matches.
Yeah, I don't know. We've always had troubles like hosting and just organising friendlies in the first place. I think like COVID probably, like, I don't know, was a catalyst to make it even harder for us. So in that sense, like, yeah, it's bad, but I'd say there's a bigger underlying condition that Iran needs to address to help us get more friendlies. Like, COVID is just one thing, right? But it's the organisation factor and negotiation, becoming an actual beacon of, we can host friendlies, we can have friendlies. That needs to be addressed. Like, COVID is just one thing.
Pezhman, anything from you?
I mean, aren't we used to play against Syria and Uzbekistan like 3 times a year? It's nothing new. Guys, what I miss, do you guys remember the LG Cup? Was like back in 2000 maybe. Maybe you guys are too young. I don't know. Arya, maybe you're too young. You should Google that.
Too busy in my my milk and my food, man. That's the problem.
LG Cup. Sina, I don't know. Do you have any remembrance of that?
No, I think I'm younger than Arya, so definitely not.
Oh man, I'm too old. I'm heading to my 40s. Listen, LG Cup was a really fun cup with like 4 countries playing in Iran, fully sponsored by LG, making TVs and refrigerators and stuff. And they wanted to really getting the brand on in Iran. So they had some decent teams. It was like Cameroon, maybe it was Bosnia. I don't know. I mean, okay teams to play there. And it was like LG signs everywhere and a lot of people and a lot of fun, because it was like a mini tournament with 4 teams, with semifinals and a final and stuff like that. And I believe it was one year maybe in like Hong Kong or somewhere like that too. I don't know. But I love tournaments because
it opens a good discussion, Pezhman. Do you know why? Because we're currently now in CAFA, CAFA, the Central Asian Federation. And we're with the likes of Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Tajikistan. We could easily just, and we've not played nothing. CAFA do nothing. They haven't done anything. There's obviously the WAFF, the West Asian, we used to play in that. Do you remember that? We used to play competitions in that, and we used to play matches. Well, we left that now, and CAFA haven't done anything. which is a big shame because Kafa's.
Come on, those countries, they are even worse than Iran.
Yeah,
And,
but it's an excuse to play a friendly, Uzbekistan, it's better than having one friendly at camp. I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, I would argue it's not about the frequency of friendlies, it's about the quality of them. Like when you get Saudi Arabia organizing friendlies with like Uruguay and we're hosting friendlies with like Sierra Leone, like come on, it's a big difference. And that was before COVID was happening. Like
Sierra Leone,
embarrassing.
Not to forget.
Oh yeah, no, the Farmers League, man. That was the Farmers.
I was actually on the Sierra Leone game in Iran, so it was their B team.
You actually talked about it in the last pod.
You can't compare Iran with Saudi Arabia because a lot of federations' yearly budgets are saved due to a friendly against Saudi Arabia, and now the latest thing that they're doing is like hosting these boxing galas and getting a shitload of money to boxers and promoters just to be in Saudi Arabia, and money talks.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a discussion in itself because, we'd probably talk about that for ages. But, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. So, thank you again for joining me, Arya and Pezhman. It's been a real pleasure talking with you two. And again, Happy New Year's to you two and to everyone listening. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on SoundCloud, all of the other podcast platforms. Leave a subscription as well while you're on YouTube. And if you have any more like fan questions after the Syria game, please be sure to. How do they do it? They message us, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
also, we'll have new interviews coming very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah. So thank you so much both of you for joining me again. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Cheers, guys.
Take care, guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ezatolahi, and you're listening to the Bezan podcast.